Hello builders, my name's G. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be building some really cool stuff, and I think that this series will be really beneficial for people who have a non-technical background. I'm a little bit late to the hype train around this particular product, but I think that over time, over the last few months, I've really dialed in how to use it and how to get the most out of it. It's ChatGPT. I think that a lot of people have done a lot of different pieces of content around ChatGPT. It's kind of done to death by the Thread boys, but I think, just taking a couple steps back, kind of taking a look at the landscape and how different people are using it. I'm going to be working on a couple of different projects over this hopefully long series and show to people who have potentially a non-technical background but want to build really cool products, and for engineers to, get off of their lazy butts and actually go build stuff, because ChatGPT is an incredible force multiplier. And if you have the vision and the ideas to be able to create, ChatGPT can be an incredible tool to help you. So before we get started with actually designing and then building this, we should probably take a look at some of the things that people have done before, right? So a lot of times we can just create existing things with minor improvements, and that can provide a lot of value. And so that's a lot of to do with like incremental change and that type of stuff. So let's just quickly Google search and find some randomized spinners. So we've got wheel of names. Spin the wheel to decide a random choice. So this guy chose this name. So cool. So it looks like they've changed the little color codes. I'm not going to be adding ads into the thing, so we can ignore that. Nice input screen to the right. Okay. There's a hide. There's a shuffle. Interesting. Shuffling on the board. Okay. Import from file, view, and okay, and a more button. So this is on the input side here. You have the actual spinner. No click to drag spin. It's totally fine. It's not needed. Looks like there's some music and some form of open all results button, and then a little header, a little nav bar on the top there. You can share. Okay, there are tools, and there's a menu. Okay, interesting. So I've opened up a quick Google Doc here, and we're just going to take a couple of notes here. So they call it a picker wheel. I called it a randomized spinner. I'm sure it's basically the same thing, but when we look at something that exists, we want to take inspiration from, we want to take pieces from. There are things that I like, there are things that I don't like. I'm sure you could tell from the tone of my voice which camp I'm in for certain individual things, but we'll start from the top and go down. So there's a nav bar. I don't really think there's a lot of different features. I don't think I need a logo. Some form of escape hatch. Oh my god, to spelling. Some form of an escape hatch. So, let's just say that you navigated to a different screen, or there's some form of like pop-up input, like in the form of a modal kind of pop-up with some text in it. You can click on usually the logo or the name here to escape to the home part of a web page, and so that's called in design an escape hatch. And so I do think an escape hatch is needed. Nav bar to hold the escape hatch, so we'll make that as like a little bullet there. Another thing that might be useful would be right side to have an option for spinner and inputs, and maybe some form of history. So I know there's a share button, tools. I don't think I particularly need to share mine. Mine is just to, add in a list of the future projects that we're going to be doing in this series, loading them into a wheel, and then being able to spin the wheel. Be good to be able to see which ones I've done in the past so that we don't repeat them, which ones are already selected, and be able to switch easily between the spinners and the inputs. So I know they put it all within one screen here. I might be able to do that. As you can see, in a side-by-side view, they stack one on top of each other. I might want to make it clear for myself particularly. I might want to have one screen just be the wheel, one screen be the inputs initially. So you land on the home page. It has a list of inputs. You confirm your list of inputs. You hit confirm. It goes to the spinner, and then you spin it. So going into this, so you'll have a home screen, which is a text input, right? So we're going to provide the text input here, and then show a list of inputs. So let's just pretend put some things, so like a calculator, which is a potential project we'll do going into the future. Interesting, they show that. I feel like that's a lot of wasted work to be updating it per. I think it'd be just better if there was a confirm button, like you confirm all the inputs, and then a separate screen pops up on confirm to just show the spinner, and then you can flip back and forth on the nav bar. But I think this is also a clean interface, better for people who just need a quick and dirty spinner. So, what are some other projects that we might be doing here? Photo sharing, right? All right, we're back. So I didn't want to let you suffer through me asking ChatGPT what are some different projects that I could be doing. I was just sitting there being like, oh, I didn't actually think this through. So I had ChatGPT think for me and come up with a couple of them. There's a whole long list of different stuff, weather apps, resume, online marketplace, video streaming, calculator, which I think I put in there, flashcard, fitness, recipe. They have a bunch of lists of random stuff. We won't be running out of random projects to do using ChatGPT, so I'd better have chosen wisely, because it's going to be embarrassing when ChatGPT is not going to be able to do it. Not embarrassing on me, right? Anyways, list of inputs look interesting. What is this? Is this a copy? Okay, so it's duplicate. We don't need that. What is this? Oh, okay, so it's a deselect. Okay, that's actually pretty useful. I probably would have put it on the left side. So list of inputs will have a select/deselect, maybe. Might actually just eliminate it and put it into a history down by the bottom. And maybe, yeah, so there's that. History of items, delete. So this can go on the left. In the middle is the name of the input itself. So this is middle. And then delete on the right side. And there's your consistency. Okay, Grammarly, get out of here. Cool. So there's that portion. Hide I don't need. Shuffle I don't need. File, imports. I don't think I need that. Text input. That should be pretty standard. I guess just a header for the text input, or for the header for text input area. Cool. There's a full screen option. I don't think we need that. What is this? All results during the current... Okay, I don't need that, because we'll probably just have one result. Okay, cool. So then on to the spinner itself. The eye. Alright, so they chose 3 colors. I hate this green, and this yellow's okay. This green's fine. And then there's a 4th color. Interesting. So if I add in another one, let's just add in a random then. Fitness app. Okay, so that's a 4th color. Do they add in a 5th color? Health monitoring. No, they just repeat colors after 4. So they have 4 colors. Interesting. For the sake of simplicity, I'll probably just choose 2 and just alternate so that we don't have this clash here. So we'll just have a so they have basically a pie graph, pie chart, pie chart style spinner. Each input takes up a slice, choosing 2 colors for no choosing 2 colors to alternate for the slices. Alright, so there's that. Then they have a little spin button in the middle. Have a circle. They chose gray. Doesn't really matter what color. Preferably one that doesn't clash with the 2 colors that I choose there. And a triangle on top to denote the selection. Cool. Cool. So those are the portions there for the spinner. I think that should be pretty simple. I almost forgot here on the home screen, as I said before, have a confirm button on the bottom. And then, yeah. Cool. And then, probably won't need a spin again, but we'll do a spin again. Button. Take the selection and put it into the history. Technically, that requires some form of a server, so we'll have to keep an eye. Have to keep that in mind if we want this. History will require a server, which might make it out of the scope of this particular video. We can always do a video to revisit. Yeah, this one will require a server, so that's. Might be out of the scope. We might revisit and create some form of a server backend to store historical values, because if you're just hosting a static web page, it doesn't have memory in the browser. So basically, when you navigate it, it won't remember from one thing to the next, unless there's a server somewhere else and it asks the server for information which the server is storing on behalf of the website. So there's that. So there's 3 different screens here, laid out all of the individual things here, with the name of the web page. And the right side of the nav bar will be a spinner and inputs. Right side will have 2 buttons. Spinner goes to spinner with session. uh, with the current session's inputs. And then the inputs with the history. So, technically, this is the home screen. And so just to order this correctly, we'll put the home screen first and then the spinner. So, and then have two buttons highlighted when on that page. Now, actually, I'll talk about that when we get to ChatGPT. Okay, so what I have here is Excalibur, and it's a great tool because I don't particularly enjoy using Figma, because it kind of constrains my creativity in some ways to have already pre-made components. And in my opinion, just for me personally, it's better for myself when things are a little bit more abstract and gives me some wiggle room to go with the flow, because sometimes you might be too attached to Figma default objects, and when things don't look right, it can mess a lot of things up. So when things are more abstract, there's a lot more room for adjustment. It's just a thing that a particular thing that I deal with. It's just a personal preference for me. So cool. So we just have this top portion here. We'll just have a full fill there. So this is the nav bar there. So we'll have a title here on the left side, and this will be an escape hatch. Going to home. Cool. Alright, and along the right side, I think if we can do it, let's create kind of a sliding two-part button. Don't know. We'll have to see if GPT feels cooperative, but this one will be the inputs, and this one, this one will be the spinner. Cool. So let me just label this thing as home. Here, we'll grab all of these, we'll go down a little bit, and we'll paste this, and I'll call this the, whoops, alright, weird, give me this stuff, put it here. I need to edit this. This is the spinner. Great. Spinner might be easier to do. So there's your circle there. We'll do that. And then, this is going to be fun. So, you'll have different slices. There, and then you'll have a circle. We'll fill this one in. Guess we're going with the green there, and then we need a little triangle, which we can mock if we get rid of this thing. Can mock it by just having this diamond go there. Look at that. Looks nice, right? So there's the spinner, the center part, right? So you have uh, that, and then a spin again button. You know, just looking at this, instead of that, we'll just go with a what color? White, please. There we go. Selected input results. That'll be where our spin again button goes. We'll go there. Whatever. Yeah, that's whatever. And then we'll have a spin word go here. Cool. And then label. You know, so on and so forth for all of these. Okay. So that's the spinner. Onto the input. So we have a header. So add your inputs to the spinner. There's the header. Then you'll have your text input. Text input go here. You'll have your add button go here. So just provide a label for that. Add button. There. List of inputs. So this will go here. List of inputs. So we'll have, you know, a check mark or X either way, or just a radio button. So maybe just have this one be filled. Yeah, one filled, one not. Input one. Input 2, so on and so forth, going down, and then a delete on the right hand side of that. So yeah, just that, and these will, you know, we can say a redder color, maybe that. Oh geez. There we go. It's just red X. Cool. And then maybe on the right side. Send it back. This will be our history. History with a list of inputs in there. Well, cool. So let's just go back to the list that we have here. Move that over. So we have navbar, escape hatch, name of the website. There. Right side will have two buttons. There. Input spinner. Yep. Header for the text input area. Text input. List of inputs. Select. Name of input. Delete. Confirm button. Oh, look. Thank God we went back and looked at that. We'll go... Oh, where to put the confirm button. Interesting. I don't really want to put it all the way at the bottom of these list of inputs, so these might go off the screen, and we'll just have a confirm button go here. Cool. I said on the bottom, but it'll be under the text input. Could also technically put it in this list view. Actually, I might like that more. So I'll just have it in line with this and do it like that. And this will appear. And just write that. Confirm button will be initially grayed out until an input is given. Alright, let's do that. Just space it out together. Maybe that. Alright, cool. So there is our first project diagrammed out. So if we look at the original picker here, they didn't really need a confirm button because their spinner was on the same screen as the inputs, but you have the header there. They do list the number. That might be nice. So instead of writing out the title, there's a header here with a number of inputs here. I mean, I guess technically we could also the header here, get rid of this, put this up here, and then just have this be a header list with more more stuff going here, more inputs. So yeah, that could work. So cool. Then things on the top right, escape hatch to the left. All right, I think we're done designing. I think we're ready to build. Okay, so before I start having ChatGPT generate the website that we had just designed, I basically wanted to go over the custom instructions that I use for any code generation project that I want ChatGPT to do. So just as its name suggests, ChatGPT, you're trying to have a chat conversation with the system. That's when it works best. And so it's not really a Google search, right, where you basically input something and it just plops out an answer, right? There's a little bit more nuance to this system in that it works better when you go step by step and kind of allow for it to think in a sense, right? To have it go step by step, allow for you, the human overseer, if you will, basically oversee the work that the AI system is doing step by step. Instead of asking for the direct answer at the end, it, as any regular person would do, might create a mistake along the way, and any mistake that happens earlier on can cascade. And so you try to have it chunk it down into bite-sized pieces so that you can check the work and basically find any issues, any jumps in logic, any potential errors that come along the way. Now, I, as someone who has a background in engineering, are able to look at more of the technical things. For someone who's non-technical, we might be looking more for those logical errors, right? So just kind of checking for those types of things. So going into the custom instruction itself, so you usually provide some form of custom instruction to provide the context for the future conversations. And so this is not just context about yourself, but context about the AI itself. And so in this case, as I treat ChatGPT, it's a programming assistant, not actually the programmer itself. Though it can do that, I think it's better if you view it as an assistant who's potentially going to make errors. You, the person who's going to be managing the project, needs to make sure that it's doing it correctly. So some of the things that I want ChatGPT to do: follow the user's requirements carefully and to the letter. First, think step by step and describe your plan for what to do in pseudocode. You and your, in this case, right, is ChatGPT, just to remind you. Written out in great detail. You want more detail because it just adds to more contextual data that ChatGPT will be able to use when it generates further into the future. You don't want it to be too verbose, and so in some of the later on bullets, I talk about removing prose and some of the other boilerplate text. You want it to be rich in the details that are necessary and specific to the project, not just fluff, right? This isn't like a, prospective college student's SAT essay, right? This is, something that needs to be concise yet rich. So when we look at that, check with the user that the pseudocode is correct before continuing. So for non-technical people, pseudocode is just kind of a brief overview, outline of what step-by-step a program, website, an app is going to be doing. You usually create pseudocode, ideally, before you program anything, because the pseudocode, if written correctly, you'll just take, it'll be a one-to-one translation between the pseudocode to the actual code, right? And in some cases, right, if you have a mathematician or someone who's really good at writing pseudocode, right, it is a literal one-to-one translation. This pseudocode becomes very similar to an algorithm, right, that you can just one-to-one, there's a code-based swap with, the written pseudocode. But, just for ChatGPT's sake, it's meant to be human readable, non-technical human readable. And so that's kind of what we're desiring at this point. If the proposed project is large and complex, then suggest how to split it up into subcomponents, start the process over for each subcomponents, and then how to integrate all of the components into the single app. So I added that to this custom instruction when I started noticing that when you talk about like a big project, like one of my pet projects that I really want to do, which the weather is not cooperating for because it's been raining so much, is to create a robot boat. I don't want to be sitting out in the rain while I try to figure out how to build a robot boat. ChatGPT very often says, "Oh, this is a pretty crazy project, so let's just provide some basic information to get you started." Well, that's not really useful for most circumstances. I want to actually know how to do it from start to finish. So by just chunking the project into a bunch of smaller projects that it sees as kind of a basic level, right, that a basic example will cover, right, if you just keep chunking it down into subcomponents, it can come up with satisfactory results for each, right? And that's should be the same for every single project, right? You just chunk it into smaller bite-sized pieces, and eventually those pieces start adding up into a greater whole, if you will. So just by recursively working through it, right, going through each iteration of making something new, packaging it in with the rest, it's just like the typical agile work cycle, right? We're just taking that but translating it into a GPT form. So once the users approved that, and then, split it up into subcomponents, integrate all the subcomponents into a single app, then you can output the code for each component one at a time, have each component be its own file. Very important because ChatGPT very often likes to put a bunch of different components into the same block of text, right? And in the developer flow with ChatGPT, it gets a little hard when you're copy pasting. There's a very convenient copy button, but it'll copy the whole thing instead of the thing that you want, right? Obviously, you can just, highlight the pieces that you want and then copy paste it over. But, this will help make it a little bit easier by just chunking it into code blocks that you can copy and paste right into the text editor real easily in one step. So instead of having multiple steps, less thinking, more doing. Minimize any other pros. I talked about that before. Just, all of the extra, like, sure, great, I'd love to do this for you. This is how you would do it. Like, all those types of words. Just trying to minimize that as much as possible. For this particular project, I chose React, Next.js, JavaScript, and to host the project on Git pages. So again, like I said before, we're not actually building the server, so Git pages is perfectly good place to put a static website. So a website which is just all the visuals, no memory, no stored instances from session to session, which is a good first step. Look out for retained cycles and objects that drop out of memory, stuff that's shouldn't be a factor nowadays for these simple projects, but when it happens to you at some point and you're getting memory leaks and all those crazy stuff and there crashes because of that and there's suffered performance, that becomes important later on, but for right now, not as much. If a requirement is not technically possible, tell the user. For all you non-technical folk out, very important. Exactly when an engineer tells you it's not possible. Well, in ChatGPT's case, you might have to get creative with it to help it think that something's possible. But generally, the system should let you know when it thinks that something's not possible. Then you work with it to kind of think it through, if you will. If you're making changes to code that you've already given the user, don't give the entire file over and over. Give them the changes so they can easily copy and paste and not wait too much. So yeah, if there's just a single line that needs to be changed out of a whole block, just show me where it goes in the main file, and I'll just copy paste that chunk and remove the old. That's all that's needed. So hopefully that's I don't know if that was a brief summary, but that was a more of a walkthrough of this custom instruction, and you're welcome to use it. I'd like to be refining this over time. As you've seen, I've hit some problems, thus I go back to my custom instruction and fix it going forward. So this is what works for me. There are a lot of others. You can look for all the thread guys on Twitter. I'm sure they have a bunch of them, but this is mine. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope that you gain a little bit of inspiration to go out and build your own projects. ChatGPT is a great force multiplier, but it relies on you having the willingness, the vision, and the drive to go out and do your own thing. Now, usually I don't really wear hats in videos, but I was trying this out. This doesn't really feel to fit the vibe of like a builder. So maybe I'll swap out a new prop, if you will. Oh, there we go. Now we're actually building, right? But look, the point of the series is to show that if G can build, so can you. Until next time, everyone. Thanks for watching.